The agent's on the phone to me saying, Daniel, there's another deal that's happening right now. And he's like, what's that noise in the background? I'm like, yeah, it's the dinghy that I'm on.
Brilliant.
Guys, welcome to WAK Chat. We're super excited today. This is going to be an awesome podcast. We're joined by our lawyer.
Yes.
And sports lawyer to many of the top footballers, soccer players around the world, Daniel G.
Hey, Dan, thank you so much.
I've never known you so prim and proper, literally.
I
It was like
was
15
in there.
seconds, it was like, he's a lawyer,
Yeah.
I'm going to have to do this. It's okay.
Can I just say as well, you don't play sports.
I used to play sports. I have you know.
Elite athletes, ex-elite athletes.
Yeah, so don't you start.
Yeah.
Before we go into the podcast, can you just let our viewers and listeners know who you are and like what you do?
Of course. I need to ask one question
Yeah.
beforehand though. Why is Woody wearing headphones?
They're not even plugged in, I bet.
Are they plugged in today?
Dan, okay, if you comment like that again, I'm going to have to speak to my lawyer.
You can't
You
speak his
can't
head.
use that.
Okay, he is my lawyer. Got to get to grips with this.
You know what?
man.
No, the truth, right? The truth is that I was going to use it a bit later on the episode, and I just had to get it in.
Get it out, yeah.
It's like, you know, when you go into a thing and you've got one thing to say,
Yeah.
I said it too quickly.
And you know what? The answer to that is because now, whenever I wear my headphones, I feel like I'm on a proper podcast.
But this isn't a proper podcast. This is the world's worst podcast.
True. This is exactly, and that's why I've got the cans and no one else has.
So what you're
we
saying
are the
is
world's
you've
worst.
invited me to the world's worst podcast.
Yes!
Yes.
We are.
Thank you.
I'm lucky.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, you and Wim Hof.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had Wim Hof, and you're our second guest.
I do breathe.
Nice. Now,
quality.
sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
So Dan, please
Sorry.
intro yourself and let our viewers know like who you are, what you do, and why you're here. Really.
No, thanks. So yeah, I am a sports and football lawyer. The sexy part of it is I get to work on loads of transfers, contracts, boot deals, work with sort of high-profile footballers, talent, influencers like yourselves, and I get to do that for a living, which is quite nice.
Amazing.
That's
Perfect.
awesome,
And we're going to
man.
deep dive into some of that. I mean, we actually did have a bit of a briefing beforehand.
This is the most prepared I've
Yeah.
ever seen for anyone for a podcast.
Well, we got our
interview.
lawyer.
Oh, this is Woody and Kleiny you're working with.
Yeah,
No, this
exactly.
is yes, proper.
This is
and in
proper.
true Woody and Kleiny fashion, obviously we went through this side of it, but
Oh yeah.
in
yeah.
actual fact, the actual questions.
Yeah. Yes.
Don't worry,
I'm
Daniel.
literally sweating. I'm sweating. And
Let me get that back.
Comments.
We've lost
I've got
him.
you.
We've
I've
lost
got you,
him.
lad. I've got you. Dan, we've been going through your Twitter. We've been, very impressed with like the amount of like footballers and stuff you've worked with. We want to just ask you about some, like the
you're
first
gonna
one.
get mischievous, I can see.
Yeah, like can you chat to us a bit about? We know you've worked with.
Well, we can clearly see that because you're congratulating him,
Yeah.
obviously, on Twitter, which must kind of indicate that you have a relationship there and you must be working on stuff with
Yeah,
them.
no, look, the truth is that whenever we're working with clients that are doing cool stuff, then, if they're all right with it, then I would just, give them a shout out just to say, great job and well done and all the things that are going on. So, I'm lucky enough to work with loads of players, loads of internationals from across different clubs, across different leagues. And, sometimes I've got relationships with the players, sometimes it's with the agents, sometimes it's with the family and the wider teams.
yes.
And ultimately, it's literally just, a matter of, when stuff happens, if it's good, bad, if it's different, sometimes you'll need your lawyer there in the midst of it, as you guys know, at different times. It's like, thank goodness I've seen quite a lot of stuff happen. I've seen negotiations go bad, work well. Ultimately, I'm being paid to get things to go smoothly and to work out when things aren't going well, how to get back on track. And that's ultimately, what I do on a daily basis.
Right. Amazing.
And obviously, when I say obviously, but I can imagine a lot of the time it doesn't go smoothly.
Well, exactly right. So, there's no point having me if everything's perfect
Yeah.
and everything's going great. My bit basically is to look out for the 1%.
Yeah.
I'm looking out from like a risk perspective on what happens when the stuff goes wrong.
Yeah.
That's more or less what I'm there to try and do. Like, you know, an agent phoning up at the weekend saying, I've got this problem with this player or family, or, you know, the player's trying to have a tough time trying to get transfer away, or, you know, he wants to work or she wants to work with this brand, but you've signed with this deal already, which doesn't allow you to do it. You know, my idea a lot of the time is not to give the bad news, because there's no point. You got to find solutions to stuff. And so the bit that, you know, is always the hard bit is, you know, explaining in pretty accessible language, because all of these legal contracts, they're difficult, they're dense, they're not accessible, is to try and explain why I'm here, why I'm trying to provide some value. And then when hopefully things go to plan, then, you know, no one's going to congratulate the lawyer really. But the whole point is that I'm in the background to be able to help when shit happens, and hopefully smooth over things when things go well.
You're obviously a football fan yourself, so it must be great to kind of be in an industry where, yes, you're not playing football, what have you, but you're so heavily linked with the game itself.
Look, it's amazing, and you know, I count my blessings every day, is the truth. But the thing is also, and we're going to talk about it a bit of time, it can get a little bit pressurized. So for a while, when it's all consuming, like when I grew up, like all of us were, you know, we're big football fans, aren't we, really? That's the thing that we were sort of doing. So for a while, when I started being in the football industry, I was a bit like, I can't do the same thing at the weekends. I can't be watching the games. I can't be doing the stuff. So I literally went away and did triathlons for 2 years, because I couldn't do the football stuff every day. But then I sort of got over myself and realized I was doing such fantastic things, and then sort of embraced it to that extent, which is, you know, everyone wants to be involved in the thing that they grew up wanting to be involved in, and I'm just, you know, privileged to be there.
I mean, if it's possible, in the space of 30 seconds, tell us kind of your route, why and how you got into like your line of work. How did that happen?
Well, it's totally boring, because I was doing literally vegetable regulations. I was like doing car part manufacturers agreements. I was doing aviation stuff. I mean, and the short answer is I started building up a network with some clubs that I worked with a few agencies that I worked with. And then, you know, you just need to effectively do one deal and do it well. And then you gain the trust of the people that are close to you. And that's effectively what happened. Did a couple of transfers, you know, decade ago or so, that were difficult. You get the trust of the close agents and the players, and then it's not easy, but then you gain their trust, you're on the inside, and then anytime anything happens, then you're there to be able to help, and then it just scales from there, basically.
Dan, you lost me after parking. So did you make them signs, whereas private parking companies who...
He's trying to be funny.
They make their own rules. Like, what's the regulations there, Dan? Because I heard a few dodgy parking fines.
He thinks because I'm a vegetable regulations lawyer, then I'm a parking regulations lawyer. Is that
I
what it
heard
is?
parking, and I'm like, you know, you get them private parking.
No.
And you get
I
the
got
fine
done by
through.
that.
Really?
Big time. I was well on
Well,
it.
I'm your lawyer and you didn't tell me.
No, this was a few years back. I couldn't afford to then, Dan. This is a long time ago.
Private parking company who fined you for illegal parking when they got signed this big. What's the rules there? Because it's not council.
You know what I love? I love how people think that because you're a lawyer, you know everything about everything in the law.
Is that not the case?
No, it's absolutely not the case.
Really? So
I am so boringly narrow in, like, I know about some contracts, but I mean...
So if something comes on your plate and you literally research and you read up...
Or, you know, the truth is that, like, even in my firm in Sheridan's, we've got lots of lawyers that work across loads of different areas. So I'm not a family lawyer, I'm not a property lawyer, I'm not like a corporate investment lawyer.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you're learning and when you're building your stuff, you've got to be able to do everything, but then you specialise in particular areas.
Yeah,
and I was lucky enough that, you know, I knew a lot about the footy industry anyway. Football's basically saved me in a way. It's like, I'm hopefully a good technical lawyer, but the whole point is, it's relatively unsexy. It's like contract law, it's intellectual property law, it's regulation law, it's dispute law. It's all of these areas of law, which until you put the word football or sport in front of them, just sounds like it's normal stuff. But because you're working with high profile people or entities or whatever, everyone's like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you can't go into it, but you must have seen potential deals happen that didn't, and no one ever knew about.
Yeah, all the time.
Which
time
ones?
Nice. Really exciting. Why are you laughing for? It's a serious question.
I will repeat the question, Mr. G. And I remind you, you are under oath.
That really interests me, that there's deals go on in the background that no one publicly knows, that don't happen but must be so close.
Yeah, it's always the case with stuff. Especially even like on deadline day when, things don't get across the line. People can sometimes be negotiating for months and years, and other times they're negotiating for hours and minutes effectively to try and get things done.
So coming to like deadline day, like why does it always get left to the last minute? Like why? Why does it have to be left? Do you know what I mean? Like why?
I think I've got a good idea.
No, but it's great. Like it's entertainment, yeah. But why is it left to the last minute?
I know I'm wearing an Everton shirt, but I'm a Spurs fan, and the one that sticks out was Van der Vaart going in my head on deadline day to Spurs, and they left it so late, and I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the answers to this actually in terms of like the actual breakdown, which you probably know more of, Dan, and why they do it. But in my head, I think it would be leaning towards a player and their management agency, whatever it may be, playing clubs off against each other in order to get them the best deal. Because ultimately, a career in football is so short. We're talking, I mean, look, the best part of 10 years if they're lucky, right? So you could have like 3 good, strong contracts there, and the middle one being like the most powerful one. And ultimately, they've got to gain as much as they can for that player, for that contract, and they're looking out for the best deal. I mean, I don't know.
It's totally right. I think even the best players, the elite players, and that's like 0.1% of everything, of everyone. If they're lucky enough to get 3 proper contracts, they've done really, really well. They've done really, really well. And I think the other thing is that I think is undervalued or less understood, is I almost think of like football transfers as a game of like 3D chess. There's lots of boards of games being played at the same time, and sometimes you can have the best laid plans, and everyone's saying, "Oh, brilliant! We've managed to get this done early in the window, or otherwise the stuff done late." It's just a game of leverage, negotiation, and who blinks first sometimes. But a lot of the time, a team will think they can get this particular player, and if that player doesn't want to go or doesn't happen, or usually it's more the club not accepting the transfer value or the transfer fee or whatever else it might be, then you've got to go to number 2.
Yes.
Or in some cases, the club doesn't have an alternative, it's that or nothing. But usually as leverage happens and as pressure builds, as the window goes on, it's all about, agents understanding the market, understanding who needs what, and then understanding what the alternatives are, and then how late things progress.
So have you been involved in a load of these? Like, I mean, we're not asking you to name names. However, if you happen to name names, that's fine.
You're literally trying to get me struck off from my job.
But can you give us some examples without obviously naming names?
So the truth is, right? No, the truth is, I prefer, if possible, to be nowhere near the negotiation.
Got you.
So I will be the boring guy at his desk, at my office usually. I won't be around the training ground. I'll try not to be around the stadium. I'll try not to actually be around the people, is the truth.
Right.
So if there's documents to be negotiated, I'm negotiating them, and I'm on the phone and helping the agent, the player, whoever else it might be, finalise stuff quickly. Because in my game, as you said before, it's all about managing risk. As long as they understand the risk of things happening or not, then that's fine, but it's my job to look out for their best interest.
Right.
And sometimes the truth is, I've held up deals. Deals where everyone almost has been willing to sign, and then I've said to the agent, no, you can't sign this because this isn't here.
Right.
And so the other, the club's going crackers with me, obviously. But at that point, you just got to look out for the best interest of the player. And thank goodness it got done. And then, 4 hours later, it gets announced. But, everyone needs to be careful about getting ahead of themselves.
Do you know what I'd love? I want to set Daniel a challenge. Is one transfer line day. I'd love to see you in the picture with a player on the shirt.
Really?
Yeah. But we should set you.
No, I haven't.
Really?
I want that to be your challenge.
Okay. I hope it's an Everton
to get
player.
down to the training ground.
I thought you were going to ask him to break out and do some keepy uppies.
I would
Not with my Ultra Boost, I'm not running these that way.
Just from what Daniel was saying, I would love one transfer window. Just to see him in the club picture with the shirt.
For you, I'll try my best.
That would be amazing. I would love it.
And then when you put it on your profile, just put this was purely for manager Daryl. Yeah. Make sure you tag him.
I'm looking for a good manager in case it doesn't work out with these guys.
I'm ready.
My God.
We can't wait to get rid of him.
Jeez,
Dan
doing us a favour, Dan.
Dan tied me in. Dan's already tied me in with you two. I'm stuck.
Stan done all the contracts.
Oh my God.
Are we safe, Dan?
Yeah.
No comment.
Brilliant.
I do find it really interesting that you do a lot of your deals essentially not at training grounds, not at stadiums and stuff like that. Where's like the craziest place you've kind of done a deal?
So it was actually one of my first ones that I did almost a decade or so ago, and you know, it was actually around this time. So we were filming in August, transfer window, season still up and running, and you know, you've got to have a family life as a lawyer still as well, or in any profession. So I went away with the missus and my 2 kids to south of France for the week, and it just so happened that then 2 big transfers happened with the same agent. And I'm literally at the beach restaurant, might have had a few shandies by this point already. And they're like, yeah, the deal's happening tonight.
Right.
So, okay, so this is when Blackberries were still being used still. So I had what Blackberry and what, I was on the in the
What a
restaurant.
phone the Blackberry was, by the way.
Yeah.
Great
So
phone.
good, so good. I mean,
Proper
the best
lawyer.
snake I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So BlackBerry in one thing, iPhone in the other. Mixed technologies obviously still going on. And I was getting all these paper napkins, 'cause that's all there was. The restaurant didn't have paper, so I'm writing all of these napkins. I'm speaking to the club to try and get this deal done. And we managed to negotiate it, which is great. So I'm like, right, okay. Then we needed to get a little dinghy back from the restaurant back to the main shore. I've got both my phones on. The phone rings again. The agent's on the phone to me saying, Daniel, there's another deal that's happening right now. I'm like, and he's like, what's that noise in the background? I'm like, yeah, it's the dinghy that I want.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
So I'm helping negotiate the second deal because he's too busy doing the first one, quite rightly so, that we managed to do. So I'm on the dinghy trying to get similar terms or the legals on the other stuff. So yeah, literally one of my first times I thought was, you know, doing effectively a deal in a restaurant. Ended up restaurant and dinghy. We got home that night. Both deals have basically been signed.
That is absolutely
nice.
incredible. I find that so funny because you don't, when you think about lawyers doing deals, you think about it being real prim and proper and, you know, in suits and, you know,
I think
doing
last time I
stuff.
was in a suit was 2014.
Really?
Yeah.
The big question what everyone wants to know here, though, was you wearing Speedos in that dinghy?
Why are you thinking about me in Speedos?
All right. Now you got me. You're in good shape, Dan.
Yeah. Oh, that is funny.
You're lucky we weren't in the dinghy with you, mate. We would have popped it if we knew that you was on a deal, doing a multi-million-pound deal for a footballer.
I hope you don't do any of our deals in a dinghy.
Speedboat now.
Yeah, we got the 50-footer.
He's got the yacht for ours, Woody. We're all right, mate.
Look, I've seen a few of the cars out there, by the way.
Brilliant.
Oh, that's amazing. What a story, though.
That's so good.
And while you're on here, without getting too soppy, you know, like the relationship that we've gained with you, we've had from the moment we met you, it's been an unbelievable experience for us because a lot of people kind of will have the perception that when you have a lawyer and you're talking with legal people that, it is very expensive to obviously have this in place, but not as much as you'd think to be looked after in the way that you guys do. And lawyers may, like, I don't know, perception could be that some lawyers are out there and agents and stuff and it's all a money grabbing industry, but it's really not the experience that we've had. And there's been so many times that you've done things out of just the good of your own heart and just wanting to make sure that we're okay. And you've been on the end of the phone on several occasions where you've just given us your time and energy and you've dealt with things and you've done things completely free of charge. And we never knew you, like our relationship with you is purely been a working relationship, so there wasn't a friendship previous to it, but we really truly believe that we've kind of gained this friendship with you, and not only can we call upon you when we're in desperate need of your help and stuff, but you're there as a friend, and it's not always about there being an invoice at the end of it. And
I second that.
I mean, from experience, I think that it's been amazing for
100%.
Oh. You know, the truth is, right, just about that, I've got a lot of love for you guys as well, is we talk about, we sometimes do get a bit deeper meaningful in our conversations, and I really appreciate it because I think a lot of people don't give enough authentic compliments to people as well. I'm not saying just to lawyers, but I mean just in general. It's like, you know how when people's first reaction to getting a compliment is almost like brush it off and don't worry about it. But I think when there's always a job well done, not necessarily my job well done, but I'm just saying in general, I always think it's really important because otherwise you get into this wrapped up world of only being worried about when shit goes wrong.
Yeah.
And then you're just constantly thinking, oh my God, like it didn't happen exactly how I wanted it, and and that's me now, and all the rest of it. Whereas we don't ponder enough on the good positive that happens a lot of the time, and then actually sit with the positive of like, job well done, celebrate it for what it is, enjoy it, and then sort of get on with it, I think sometimes.
Yeah, well said.
I love that. And we've also like had conversations in the past, and we've got a lot of, all of us in common with like the law of attraction, and you know, we spoke about, I remember you told us about the monkey brain before, and I think it'd be really cool to talk about that. It's kind of coming away from the lawyer stuff a little bit, but I think that's a really interesting theory about the monkey brain, if you could tell our viewers and listeners.
No, it's really good that you touched on that, Kleins, and the reason I want to say where it's really clever that you asked that question is because people see us in our walk of life, and they see you in your walk of life. Now, you couldn't be at polar opposite ends of like kind of what we do for a living sort of thing.
Yes.
However, so many things, we're on the same page and our beliefs and our thought processes. So it's such a great question.
Yeah. Completely agree. It's all just about mindset and approach. And the first conversations we all had together, the truth was we were talking all about some other stuff, but then we all just got nice and deep and meaningful in a really positive way. And you shared so much stuff. I actually think it's all to do with, there's a great TED talk by a lady called Brené Brown, and it talks about the power of vulnerability. And vulnerability is like the word in loads of different directions, but it's basically, I think, about being authentic, about not sugarcoating stuff, but also showing both sides of the coin, which is not everything is always easy, not everything is always brilliant, but actually it's being authentic enough to be able to say, struggling a little bit, or actually things are great, or you know, I've been through all of these types of stuff and I've come out the other end and things are actually pretty good. And that's what your book says quite a lot actually about. Plug the book.
The social struggle.
We can plug yours later.
Oh, I see what you've done there. Then he's like, come on, there's 1-1 then, isn't it?
Give and take it.
But it's exactly right. And so I have this thing, you have you know, the law of attraction stuff, which I completely agree with, which is, you know, you put yourself in the best possible position for the outcome that you want to attain. And the only way that you can do that is by pushing in the same direction and putting that positivity and mindset into action. And with me, I was just talking about my sort of monkey brain. It's called the chimp paradox, by a guy called Steve Peters. And Steve Peters, and he's basically explained the two different parts of the brain. And I sort of align with that sometimes, because I always have this monkey brain. It's always the emotional, the critical, the you're not good enough, the easily responsive one that's always putting you down and doing the easy thing, and the easy thing is usually the critical thing. And so I find it really important from my perspective to a lot of the time quieten down my monkey brain, but you only quieten it down by understanding that it's there in the first place. Not subduing the feeling, but actually living with the feeling of whatever it is, but still not accepting that that's the way, the path you need it to go. Which has been, you know, quite a revelation generally. You know, communication with my missus, with my family, with my kids is really important. You know, us men, generally we're not brilliant at talking, are we? That's the whole point. We're like, no, you know, we can deal with things ourselves. We can, you know, we need to be the providers. We need to be strong and solid and dependable and all this type of stuff. But the problem that happens as a result of that is you can get into a spiral then of being like, I don't need to talk to anyone else. I can deal with things myself and my own island and all the rest of it. But actually, it's the exact inverse of that, usually, in my experience. The more that you share, the more that you're vulnerable about stuff, the more that you communicate, especially with your loved ones, that are the ones that are most close to you, you actually connect further and deeper and stronger. And my view in the past was, no, I don't want to burden other people with that stuff. But actually, it's not the burdening, it's the sharing, which is the most important thing.
That's you know awesome. What, I want to take that back to you, Klein, actually, because... I mean, as everyone knows who watches this, me, Darryl and Klein are like three musketeers. You know, we're really super close. We've kind of grown up around each other, know each other so well. Probably know Kleiny better than the back of my own hand. But when we talk about the monkey brain and stuff like that, like Kleiny was a very talented footballer growing up, right, Darryl?
Very good.
And when you played, obviously your experience of playing in professional football within academies and stuff like that, when we talk about the monkey brain, that used to affect you with your football, didn't it?
100%. I relate to that so much, Dan. Like, I used to go into games when I was at Luton Town Academy and always be like thinking, oh, you know, what if I make a bad pass? It was like in my head, or like, what's the manager thinking? Like he thinks I'm playing bad. He thinks I've done a bad touch or whatever. And that was, you know, at the time I didn't know that, but that was my monkey brain telling me all this stuff. And at the time, if I knew all the stuff that I knew now with the law of attraction and positivity and monkey brain and all this type of stuff, I reckon I would have, my pathway in football would have changed, because it is all a mindset. Like, I do think a mindset in anything you do, whether it's football or whatever, like, that can take over, no matter how talented you are.
Totally right.
Do you know what I mean?
Totally
like,
right.
And that was I look back at that now and I think that was my monkey brain.
But that's the journey that you've been on.
Yeah.
Which is the great thing. Like, without turning this into a book club.
Yeah.
There's a brilliant.
You love that shout, don't you? The book club shout.
Yeah, I like the book club.
Like, there's a book called Mindset by a lady called Dr. Carol Dweck, and it's amazing, and it's all just about growth mindset. So it's all about not being stuck in your static perspective, which is I'm never going to get any better, I'm always going to be the way I am, but actually embracing the growth and ideas that I can get better, things can improve, I might, you know, fall back at different times, but actually my journey is a learning journey to get better, and actually the approach to that is always I can do better, but also for your team around you. Like, I'm lucky enough to work with 15, 16 people in our sports team, and my idea is always to be, you know, if I'm not learning, I'm not growing. With everything, reading new book. We talk about loads of books and stuff as well when we've all had our chats and we, you know, share ideas on stuff. And I'm constantly thinking about the next podcast I want to listen to or recommend to you, Daryl, or the next book that I'm reading, or the next TED talk that I'm, you know, wanting to listen to, and all the rest of it. Because my brain's a bit of a weird brain, but not that I'm unique in any way. But what I mean is like when you add an extra thing to what's already there, it just connects an extra little dot, and something else then makes sense as a result. So I almost feel like the more that I learn, the bigger jigsaw piece I have to be able to solve. But the jigsaw piece will just keep on getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But adding an extra bit is really powerful to the overall sort of mix.
Couldn't agree with you any more than that. I mean, my dad's always said to me, like, you're learning every single day. You learn every day until the day you die, until the day you pass over, you know.
Well, I think that people who have the mindset of like they can't learn anymore, that they stagnate. You know, we've always said it. We've always said it here in the WAK CHAT, and the amazing team that we've built around us now is that even though we've been doing this social media thing 10 years now, we're still learning off of, you know, everyone, and we always will, off of Joe, off of even the new editors we've got in, Francisco, J-Bo, Mike. Like, you're just constantly learning, and I think that's a really important message that people should have. You're learning till the day you die. Do you know what I mean?
And it comes in different ways, shapes and forms. I mean, I'm learning from my son. Bailey's even here today watching our podcast.
Oh, Bailey.
Go on, Bailey.
How much work experience? How much are you paying him?
Internship. Free.
Put the contract through you, didn't we?
Intern only.
But I'm constantly learning from my son. You know, every day I wake up and he opens his beautiful eyes and what have you, and looks into mine, and I see him in the morning. There's something that I can take from him, you know, and like every day is
it's
an
a massive thing. Like,
adventure.
I'm a big fan of, like, when I was at uni, you know, I studied politics as well as law, and I just couldn't get into it. I couldn't get into philosophy. We did philosophy stuff. I couldn't get into it. It was too dense. I couldn't understand the detail of it now and all the rest of it. And I realized then that I wasn't ready for it. Whereas now, I'm not like reading these dense materials or whatever it is, but philosophy is basically just wisdom for another era, more or less. That's how I find it in so many ways. And there's so many cool people that have said interesting things about the human condition. And my thing of the book that is coming out in November, another plug for the next one.
Book club.
But yeah, book club. It's definitely going to be a hashtag book club one, isn't it?
What is that book while you're on it? Go on.
It's called Build the Invisible.
Build the Invisible.
So this is all about it's mindset stuff. It's like if you want to be an influencer or you want to be a
Did we make the cut?
Pardon?
Did we make the cut in the book?
Yeah, you're in it.
Wow.
You're in it. Yeah, so this is the interview that we did.
Right.
Yeah.
We had a good chat. That was on the chat.
That was a really
good chat.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So you're in it on mindset anyway, but that's for another. I better write in stuff now.
Which we will be plugging.
When
the book's out, we will plug that for sure.
Yeah. So when does that actually come out?
It comes out hopefully in November.
In November.
I'd love to read that.
So maybe we can have another chat about it.
Well, let's see when we look to release this podcast then, because
we'll do another part 2.
Well, depending on when this comes out.
Mindset.
We could,
do a mindset talk.
But the thing is, basically, with this, that one of the takeaways I got from speaking to loads of people, yourselves included, was, you know, when we're in school, we're learning because we have to learn. We've been told to learn. It's like transactional. You know, you have to learn to pass a test, to get the grade, to go to uni, to do the thing. Everything is like, not forced, but it's sort of forced on you. You need to be good at English, you need to get your math or whatever else it might be. And the problem with that approach...
Well, it kind of is though, isn't it? Like society tells you to do it this way, do it that way. It's even like living and like having a kid at this age, going to school, well not going to school, but going to, having a jour by this age, getting married
Everything's
by this
socialised
age.
to do the thing you want to do. And the thing that I realised is that when you're learning in school, you're not learning for learning's sake. You're learning to do the thing.
Yeah.
And so then as a result, I'm not sure I had a great relationship with learning, because you're learning because you're being forced to do it rather because you want to do it.
Yeah.
And as a result, for a long time, when you're learning stuff for my job or whatever it is, it doesn't remain in your brain. That's the best way I can explain it, because you're having to do the thing for the thing you need to do next, not because it's going to be a part of your identity that then you can grow with and then can develop or otherwise. So I had this strange relationship with learning until I realized actually I wanted to learn because I was really interested in developing stuff for my own benefit, because you're only doing it for yourself or the people around you.
I can really relate to that.
I think
that's a personality trait I have though. It's someone makes me do something, I'm like, no, that I'll do it in my own time. And that is the school system for me and how my relationship was.
But it's curiosity. It's basically, you've got to find your curiosity. Curiosity doesn't have to be one thing. It can be a million things. But what happens is when you're curious about something, you want to know more about it.
Become obsessed.
Yeah, and then you literally become obsessed and you go down these rabbit holes or wormholes of stuff and you're like, I really like this thing.
Yes.
And the question is, how do you then convert that into something that can become a side hustle, that can become a job, that can just become something that you really enjoy knowing more about and can talk to people about? And that's the cool bit, I think.
Yes. And also, I guess that comes back to like, in life, when you finish school and, you're looking for a job, is doing something that you love, because if you're doing something you love and you're learning at the same time, it doesn't feel like you're being forced to learn.
You never work.
Do you know what I mean? Do you get what I mean? Whereas if you're going into something that you're not passionate about and you don't like, then you almost feel that you're being forced to learn.
It's totally right.
Yeah.
The thing that I would say there is that I think kids get not confused about is the wrong word, but impatient about sometimes is, you guys will get it the same. And that's part of the reason why I wrote this new book, which was like, I think kids coming out of uni and in the junior parts of their career, they're like, if I can't do the thing that I really want to do now, it's never going to happen. So if I want to be a football agent or a football star or a musician or get into fashion or TV and film or whatever else it might be, and I do all the applications and it doesn't work out, what I've been trying to write in this book is to say it doesn't mean just because it's not happening in the short term for you, that it's not going to happen in the medium to long term for you.
100%, yeah.
So I always say to people who want to be football lawyers, be the best lawyer you can be first, and then be in the football industry later. Be the best accountant you can be first, and then work in the industry you want to be. Be the best. Get the best skill set first, and then get into the sector that you want to work in. Because then what happens is you have this underlying set of assets that are really useful for loads of industries, and then after that you get into the place that you want to get to. But you've got to basically build the invisible. That's the book. Build the invisible.
You know what?
That's
go on, you go.
No, just only because it's on my mind.
Please.
But like that's almost like the law of least effort. In a weird way. I don't know as much about it as like the law of attraction, but it's like the law of least effort is where you do something you love, but you for example, say us, I'll bring it back to us. We're making this social media content and we're just working hard every day and we're putting out the content, and our goal is to have our own TV show one day and be the biggest presenters in the world, but we're not like, we know that's coming, so that's like the law of least effort, where we just concentrate on what we know best right now, and that stuff will just come out of the blue. It's like the other day when we filmed the WAK CHAT studio tour, like that show concept was almost like the law of least effort. So we shot the house tour, and we never thought that was going to be a TV show concept. We just shot a house tour, and we got it into the edit, and all of a sudden, like, whoa, like we looked at each other like, this could be a TV show, and that's the law of least effort, where it's like we didn't like.
I need to put something out there.
Yeah.
You get your accountant involved in it, but you don't get your lawyer involved in it. Is that? I didn't want to.
Okay, guys, I'm just going to take a quick break. We're just going to go to adverts.
Can I do this job?
Be back with you shortly.
There we go. Right, Dan, let's negotiate.
Dan, look, just chill the f*** out.
Yeah.
Are you okay? Do you need a hug?
Okay.
Oh, are we still recording?
All I know is
sorry, I just swallowed my lawyer. I'm gone now.
All I know is the accountant got a bloody cool role, and here I am.
He's not on the pod though.
I'm on the pod.
Yeah, he's not on the
Would
pod.
you be if the WAK?
It's too late.
When the
Too late.
WAK pad comes to fruition and it's like a show, will you be a part of it?
Look,
We would
speak
love
to
that.
my agent.
Yeah,
Speak
speak to the manager.
We would love to have a lawyer involved as
You've
well.
now made your boat.
It would be so fun.
We called your bluff now. That's the problem.
That's it.
You're going to think I'm just saying this, but we actually spoke about getting lawyer involved.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Do we need to wear a suit though?
Yeah, well that's it. Like the stereotypical thing with a lawyer is a suit, and you don't wear suits.
I know.
Anytime I've seen you, you've not worn a suit.
Well, because the thing there is just briefly is you've got to. I think to be good in the service industry generally, you've got to make sure that your clients feel comfortable with you.
Yeah.
You've got to mirror your clients to a degree. So if I'm with high net worth that's bought a football club that I know is corporate, then I wear my suit and tie and shoes. I'm with you guys and I wear jeans and a t-shirt.
To be fair, you're still looking quite smart. You need to dress down a little more.
I know, one day.
Dan, what's the most outrageous clause you've ever done in a football deal?
Well, so all I would say there is so in my book, I have this whole section about these crazy clauses.
That's another plug.
Yeah.
Let's do a plug count for the whole podcast. In the book, done deal.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that the book, done deal?
Published by Bloomsbury.
Do you know what it reminds me of? Have you seen that? Who's the boxer that kept shouting out that he'd fought in front of
Froch.
Yeah, Froch. Have you seen it? When he just keeps, in interviews, he keeps telling people that he fought in front of 90,000 people at Wembley.
Yeah,
but he goes, well, that time when I fought in front of 90,000 people at Wembley. And he's just like, it always goes back to it.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's kind of a running joke, isn't it?
Yeah.
So when I wrote this book...
What, the done deal?
Done deal, thank you.
Every time you do the done deal.
Look, it's a copyright infringement there for anyone else that uses the phrase, by the way. But sorry, it's a bad joke in front of me.
I got it. That was a law joke. That was a law joke.
You laughed, but you didn't mean it.
Yeah.
I saw it in your eyes.
I'm good at that. I work with him every day.
It's all of these great stories. One is from this player called Neil Ruddock that played for Liverpool, played for Spurs as well, Crystal Palace.
Oh, nice.
And the truth is, he was a chunky guy, and there was some great stories about his drinking and all the stuff that happened over the years. But when I think he was one of his last clubs, Crystal Palace, he apparently signed this contract which had a weight clause in it, which more or less said if you went over a certain weight, then you'd be deducted a percentage of your salary.
No way.
So he apparently signed up to this, all reported, and but it turned out that his first game for the club, where he was going to play, I'm not sure if this is just an urban myth or not, I mean it's reported so I can't believe it's true, was they couldn't get shorts big enough for him, so he couldn't play in the actual game, which feels a bit harsh really, in truth.
Oh my God.
But Ruddock, Ruddock.
Razor, if you're watching this, can you comment below if that's the truth, mate?
Yeah.
Exactly. It was coming for me, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Wow.
But no, and so he was had an unbelievable left foot on him and scored a brilliant header in the 3-3 game Liverpool Man U back in the day as well.
Yeah.
Oh, nice way to bring it back round.
Thank you. Yeah. keep it wholesome.
Yeah.
But then there's other brilliant ones. So there's a guy, Stefan Schwarz, that played for Arsenal back in the day.
I love Stefan Schwarz.
Yeah, great.
Nice.
Again, a great left foot as well on him as well. And so this is a great one where the club secretary at Sunderland, before he signed, the secretary read an interview that he'd given, which was at some point he wanted to go into space. And so he'd done this interview. Sunderland were like, what are we going to do here? And so the eagle-eyed secretary put a clause in his contract which said during the time of his deal at Sunderland, he wasn't allowed to go into space.
just in case he just jet off.
What?
Just in case he was going to do
Weekend on the moon.
That's actually in
that apparently
a
was
contract.
Now, who knows whether it was or not, but it's a great story, either way.
That's amazing.
Actually, did a bit of research, and he's actually become friendly with Elon Musk.
He's got shares in SpaceX.
Why are you looking at me as if I'm talking?
Because I can see the smile on your face.
Correct.
You've got to have a better lawyer face than that.
Which shows that you must be good in negotiation, because I tried to put on a good poker face there and you read me like a book. Like the done deal.
Thank you.
Done deal.
I think that's 7 or 8.
Yeah. I just can't believe like that. It's type of stuff is in contracts.
That's
it's
crazy. It's so
man.
funny.
Well, there's a great one also. It's reported a few years back when Neymar was at Barcelona. They had a clause in his deal which allowed, because he'd obviously get a bit homesick, I think obviously but Barcelona's obviously a great city as well, that Barcelona would pay all expenses for his friends to come over once a month to be able to party, to be able to stay with him and to have a nice time. So maybe you should get that in your next deal, boys.
Can we get that in our next deal?
It's already in mine.
Yeah.
I've already got that.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm really like looking at this, thinking that we should try and actually get a fun clause put into one of our contracts.
Or just a joke. Can you do joke clauses?
Yeah, of course. Well, have you heard that the M&M's clause that some of the musicians used to put in the day?
No.
When they're riders, they would always have a clause that said we wanted, 3,000 green M&M's.
Oh, wicked! We've got to have.
Oh my God!
What could ours be then? Come on, help us out with this,
but the thing is that the reason why I listened to one of these podcasts where they were talking about this, and they said the reason why they would put that clause in because they would need to make sure that actually the people were paying attention to what they really wanted, which was whatever else it was. But if then they were paying attention to the thing that was really difficult to do, they would do all the other stuff really easily.
Well, I like it.
That's really interesting.
So when players are asking or agents are asking for such and such money, maybe that's their first offer. It doesn't mean it's their last one.
No.
And then you can sort of get to that compromise position.
I tell you what, okay, so this is the new thing for us to be able to factor into.
What is it?
Whoever the brand is, we must ask for. So say it's a sweet brand or something. Yeah. We must ask for a gift set, okay, of a packet of their favourite sweets.
Is that? Can we do that?
Can we get that right in?
Look. You got the best lawyer to be
able to that's it, yeah. I like
because then we know they're going to be listening if they pick up on it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the lads have got a clause.
And then you can act like divas if you don't get it. You'd be like, we're not doing this. I haven't got my sweets.
Yes.
Yeah,
we can make it like a really hard sweet to get hold of, like a Japanese candy or something that's like really hard to import into like the UK.
And then get food poisoning.
Yeah. I got food poisoning the other day. I was fuming.
Or it's just got to be related to that brand.
Yeah.
So say it's for a sports brand and you've got to ask for a specific T-shirt that you want from that sports brand.
Okay, well, let's see.
Actually, no, it needs to be ridiculous. It needs to be silly.
It needs to be just something that's difficult to do.
Yes.
That takes time, is painstaking to do.
I tell you what, we'll leave it there and we'll come back to it. And
why don't we get them to comment below?
Yeah, comment below what you want to see us request.
What a great idea.
That'd be interesting.
Comment below, guys.
Comment below what you think we should put in our clauses, and
amazing.
Dan over here will put them in.
Yeah.
I love it how it's becoming like a drafting thing. It's like Dan's going to draft it.
Yeah. It's going to cost us.
Do you think it's do you think it's a good idea for our listeners and viewers to help us draft our contracts with you?
Look, crowdsourcing is the way forward.
What? Here's one for you.
Yeah.
Why in contracts are there so many words that I've never seen? Like, why don't you just write, you're not allowed to do this or you are allowed to? It's just like, the wording is almost, it seems like it's there to trip people up.
It's there, yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is like, when you have to cover off a lot of different situations, the truth is you sometimes have to use more words, but I'm totally for, brevity is the truth. You've got to be succinct with stuff these days. And I'm also of the view is, whilst a contract needs to be technical and detailed to cover off protections, I'm sounding like a proper lawyer now.
No.
Has anyone got my phone? I've just got to Google the word brevity.
What does that mean?
Concise, just nice and it doesn't take
brevity.
too long.
Okay, cool.
Bailey, next time you have a conversation with me, think brevity. All right?
Yeah. Brevity.
Then, ultimately it's just covering off loads of situations, is truth. But whilst the contract needs to be detailed, I always find that what I need to do whenever I chat to you guys is explain the contract. I've got to explain the contract so that you guys can understand why it's there and what it's saying and what the reason for it is. So there is a bit of difference between it, but I agree. There's a lot of words sometimes that aren't usually necessary.
Yeah.
Would you have to Google a word sometimes if it comes in the contract?
Well, I've got a dictionary.
Why not use Google?
I don't know.
You still use a book?
Yeah, I have physical books that I do read rather than type. Yes, that is true.
Is that another book club? Is that part of the book club?
Dictionary?
I read the dictionary.
That's awesome. There are people that do that.
I love it like I'm some type of freak. There are people that read the dictionary.
Weren't you on a word a day or a word a week?
We did, didn't we? Try and learn a new word a day.
We fell off.
You kind of fall off, but you kind of need to be around people that know.
Yeah.
I love
words. Lawyer words.
So you can actually use them. We're kind of we're acting like kids most of the time.
Yeah, that's it.
So we don't really get a chance to use brevity.
We should start using that.
I'm going to start.
I love it if that's actually not the right word. Now.
Can you imagine? Can we have a fact check on that?
No, but this is what's great because we're going to go.
Thanks, Joe.
He's checking brevity. I saw on Google.
This could be bad.
Go on, Joe. This is important here.
He's right.
Is it?
Right.
Yeah.
So we'll go into our next meeting with our management company.
You have to use the word.
And we're going to drop in the word brevity.
We'll
have a competition.
But could you put it into context though? Like how? Like we need a bit more brevity here. Does that work?
No. Yeah. Well, I'm just going to say yes to make him not sound stupid.
I think it works, but it could be used even.
Always use a shorter word to be able to say the thing you want to say. It's always my view on stuff.
Cool.
No.
Roger that.
Okay, so back to the podcast.
Sorry, we're going off topic here. I think.
Can I ask one thing, before we go a little bit more? Because I've already called out Woody.
Yes.
Go on.
Is your socks into your trousers a thing that happens a lot of the time?
It is.
Oh, it is?
It is.
Because we wouldn't be able to get away with that in our office.
No, but do you know what this is? This is old school football back in the day. Did you not used to train like this?
Yeah.
And the footballers stopped doing it. Back in the day, at training, you used to tuck your trousers.
I'd always do that.
Because they never do.
But what are you thinking? The game's about to break out now?
I'm ready. Dan's here, and I'm thinking I can still nick a contract to do all my feet, all my contracts for me. I'm ready.
You have got another contract.
You know his mindset. He was in game mode.
He's
ready.
Just in case a game breaks out.
He's ready.
Stick it top
That's
in.
good answer.
It's quite cosy though. Do you know what happened? This is the truth, right? And going off topic here, but last night when we filmed the Battleships Arena, it was like we got soaked and I was so cold.
Yeah.
And we went upstairs to get changed, and I put some tracksuit bottoms on. I was like freezing like this. I was like, I'm going to put my socks over top of my tracksuit bottoms here just to feel cozy. And it was really nice. And then when I woke up this morning, I thought, I'm doing it again.
Gone for it again.
My ankles are cold.
Yeah.
You went to bed like that and then rolled out of bed and then fell into work.
That's it,
I said, it's quite warm, and I said to him, why have you not got shorts on today? And he goes, they're all in the wash. I was like, I've got some upstairs you can use if you want.
But it's all right, Dan. I'm bringing this back, mate.
It's a good fit, that top on you, Kleins. Right?
What one?
And because what I was just thinking, right, you remember years ago, the footballers, when they trained with tracksuit bottoms.
They were baggy though, weren't they?
Really so baggy.
Yeah.
Everything's gone so skinny now.
Yeah.
It was hard to get skinny tracksuit bottoms back then.
Yeah.
You couldn't,
unless
you had massive calves.
Yeah. More importantly, why aren't you wearing your luck cap? You would have told me off if I weren't wearing my luck cap.
Do you know what?
We have an exclusive deal.
Yeah.
It's non-branded.
Non-branded.
Perfect opportunity to plug luck on.
Yeah, it's clothing club.
Yeah.
Clothing club.
Book club, clothing club.
Yeah. Check it out. Go to luckclothing.com.
Luckclothing.com. We need to when we get the new drop of luck, we need to send Dan some bits.
100%. At the end of this, we'll make sure that all links are in.
How does that work with footballers and wearing clothing brands like that? Because they've obviously got boot deals and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So in my book,
What? The done deal?
So basically, there's these clauses in most of the Adi, Nike, Puma, New Balance deals, and they're really wide. So realistically, if players usually think they're signing up to be able to wear Nike or Adi just for their boots and the rest of it, on the whole, it ties them in substantially. So if you're an Adi athlete, it probably means you can't wear any high street brand of clothing whatsoever. You probably even can't wear high-end brand stuff as well. So what's actually a really important part of my job a lot of the time is to either tell the players and the agents that you're signing up to this obviously quite lucrative deal, but it means you're not going to be able to do too much else, other types of brand deals, or you actually need to try and narrow the brand and product range of the deals that of that particular deal to ensure that you're only getting what you think you're actually getting. But as a result, you might not get paid as much because you're not going to be a sort of 360 athlete.
Of course.
I think Rafinha, who played for Barcelona, he had an automatic clause in his contract which they didn't spot with Adidas, and so Adidas renewed it without him realising, he started wearing different brands and they sued him.
Really?
Yeah. From what I read, don't know how factual that is. We'll get a fact chat.
Ian Wright was at Arsenal, and I remember when he had a boot deal with Nike, didn't he? And then like there was like issues and problems with his contracts and stuff. And then while that was getting sorted, he just like literally went to the other side and started wearing Adidas.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it's so different back then though now.
A lot of players now just wear all black boots once they're out of contract. So once they're out of contract, you can tell because they wear all blacks.
There's actually a reason for it. So the reason is when they're out of contract is usually there's a half-year period that all of the brands say you can't work with the next brand.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So you actually, if you've decided not to renew with that brand, you have a 6-month period where you can't work with the next brand,
That makes sense.
and then because they're just you can't be affiliated effectively, and then you can go and do.
So if they was with Nike, would they have to then strip a Nike boot of its like Nike?
Usually, you'd have to be really careful on that as well. In truth,
yeah, because ultimately you can pick up an Adidas boot, rip off the stripes, you can still see.
You just have to black it out, but you'd have to do it really well. In truth, to make sure.
I heard players like years ago would be getting paid by Puma to wear Puma Kings, but would take the Puma logo off and put would wear Copas, and then have the Puma logo put,
you can't do that now though, can you?
Yeah, I think it would be too obvious to be able to see now.
Was that something that was going on? So people were changing either three stripes or the Puma logo?
You mean because they loved the Puma King so much, it was so comfy, but actually sponsored by another company? I mean, I'm sure it must have gone on in the past.
You wouldn't get away with it now.
Yeah,
with
social media
there's just so
and
many cameras as well doing that and stuff.
I mean, going back to like the World Cup '98, wasn't there something that happened with the Adidas and Nike athletes?
Yeah, so France players had to wear Adidas boots.
What's this in? Yeah, but was this in the final or something?
World Cup '98
just
final.
during the whole tournament. What happened was in the final it was Brazil v France, which become Nike versus Adidas. Right. So if you look at the team photos, you've got players like Thierry Henry, who always wore Nike throughout his career, wearing Predators.
Really?
And it's because the
that wasn't against his
federations had an
contract.
exclusive deal that all the players had to wear it, but I don't think that happens now, does it?
Well, it's a really interesting one. I'm actually going to do some research on that because it's a really interesting story that I'd never even thought about putting in my book. And
what, the done deal?
Yeah, that one. And so basically, but you're exactly right, because ultimately what happens now is, if you can imagine, there's 3 layers of endorsements. There's the player's individual endorsements, there's the club who he or she is being sponsored by, effectively wearing, and then there's the international team. And usually you can have all 3 separate. So the idea, if you're the brand, the apparel brand, is you want to have complete consistency across. So Harry Kane's an amazing example of being a Nike endorsed athlete, Spurs obviously being Nike, and England being Nike.
So he's
so that obviously is very valuable to Nike. Whereas, for example, Ronaldo and Messi, they've always had mixed, because if you imagine with Messi, Messi's Adi, now he's at Paris with Nike, and then Argentina is Adi as well, and Ronaldo is actually the inverse of that as well. So what you want to try, what the brands are trying to strive for, is complete consistency, which is quite difficult in truth. But now you can be a Nike athlete, but wear, Adi team and then Puma international, for example.
Right. I don't know how true it is, but I heard that Adidas contributed to Pogba's deal.
That was my next question. Is like, have players signed for clubs based on who the team is?
No way.
Something I read.
The power of a brand like Nike.
I don't know how true it is, and it might be complete bollocks, but I had read that Adidas were contributing towards Pogba going to Man United when he went all them years ago.
Dan, spill the beans, come on.
Yeah, I mean, I would be surprised if that was the case, only because usually the on-pitch revenue, the on-pitch money that a player is receiving is more than their off-pitch revenue generally. Right. But if there's something which is in a club deal with their apparel brand, which is, it can't be beyond the realms of possibility, I think, that a brand who is associated with the club wants to get that club to sign the world leading footballer that happens to be also associated with that brand, there could be a bonus provision in there which says if you sign this player or players in this category, then maybe we'll give you an extra amount of money. But it's a bit slightly different, I'd probably suggest.
It's interesting.
That makes sense. So you sign players of this caliber who are already signed to us, they will
also
pay you more money.
Correct. But the flip side is also true on the boot deal side, very briefly, where if you're a player at a certain club, say with Nike or Adi, there is a clause usually in all of those contracts which say that if you move to another club, and there's categories of clubs, your boot deal amount can actually go down as well as up, depending on how valued that brand thinks that club might be. And it's usually associated about whether the player is associated with that brand or not.
Okay, so for argument's sake, given an example, say Christian Eriksen. Okay, so he was at Spurs, he could have been on one deal, what have you, went elsewhere, and then he ended up signing, obviously after his traumatic experience, what obviously happened to him, coming back and playing football, and then he signed for Brentford, and Brentford not being as high calibre as a Spurs, his boot deal could have gone down because of who he's playing for. Is that what you're saying?
So interesting. I mean, there's a midway point because he was at Inter, obviously, wasn't he, before that, I think?
Correct.
So Inter to Brentford would have likely reduced his boot deal if he still had a boot deal. But now, because he's obviously signed to United, it would have almost certainly escalated
gone
up.
again. Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy.
What? This is an interesting one. What is a super injunction?
So this goes back to the question with Darryl, which is, I'm not the super injunction libel lawyer, but the super injunction stuff comes around every now and then when you've got instances of players, athletes, talents, celebrities wanting to keep stuff out of the press. A super injunction is actually even one step further from just a normal injunction. A super injunction is actually, usually an individual who wants to effectively keep his or her privacy in relation to a particular matter, which is a dispute. So someone is saying something about them, and the question then is whether a newspaper can report about it. Now, an injunction to stop the reporting is one thing, but a super injunction actually means that the paper can't even mention that there's an injunction. So, so in some cases you'll say, we're not allowed to report that a particular person has tried to get an injunction, but this one would be, the paper can't even actually say there is an injunction out there. And then the judge, more or less, in those cases, while something is ongoing, needs to balance, the public interest versus the privacy of the individual. And there's been loads of high-profile cases of those over the years.
Do they cost a lot of money?
Yes.
How much?
Yeah, it's
just asking for a friend.
Yeah, exactly. what do you need buried?
Oh, mate, we'll have a conversation after this.
Just anything what unfolds in the WAK CHAT on a daily basis. No jokes.
But a lot. Like, what are we talking about in the millions?
Look, ultimately it depends, because what actually that you're talking about is, whilst a matter is going on, this is just to stop the publicity of the story until the outcome of the case.
Okay.
So this is like a temporary thing, depending what the outcome happens. So not only is there a huge amount of effort, money and time going into that injunction, but then there's the underlying case and the result, which means that whichever party loses that case or the injunction usually has to pay a proportion of the other side's costs as well. So when you say millions, yes, it can be millions, because we're talking about not only your own legal costs, but the costs of the side too. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Which then means the person with more money could effectively, if they've taken the injunction, could
have to pay the other side.
But the other side might not be as wealthy, so they can put them in a position where it's like, well, if you lose this, then there's big money to pay. So then you just don't say or do anything about it.
Well, it's with Colleen and
it's Rebecca Vardy.
That was effectively there was no injunction in the end, but ultimately it was a case about whether one was libeling the other, and in the end Rebecca's got to pay Colleen's legal fees, a huge amount of money.
Wow.
$1 million.
Good luck,
Jamie better
Vardy.
keep playing for a few more.
He's got to nick a contract, hasn't he?
Yeah.
It's Rebecca Vardy.
That's what I just said. It's Rebecca Vardy. Did you not pick up on it?
Yeah, that's interesting. Thanks for explaining that. That actually makes a lot of sense.
I think we might have a question.
We've got some questions over here. Okay. All right. So before. All right. Should we bring?
I'm a bit worried that this is actually going to be the most articulate question of the whole session.
Do you know what? Oh God. this is worrying for me. Right, come on in. Okay, here he comes.
Talk about a super injunction. Woody might need one after this.
He's more professional than you guys. He's got a folder.
I know.
He's
I'll tell you what. Come take a seat.
Sit down here, mate.
All right, let me take the mic.
It's all branded and everything.
Okay. Where is it? I'll tell you what. While Bailey's getting into position here, and we're hooking him up. Dan.
What, pal?
Last question for you before Bailey completely grills you, or me for that matter. You work with so many high-profile players. Obviously, you're a big fan of Liverpool, right? I'm sure you watch the national team as well. So you're a fan of football, and there's times where you must have come across and worked with certain players where you've been slightly starstruck, say.
Yeah.
What has that been like?
It's been cool. So, you know, the thing is, as a lawyer, you've got to have an air of authority about you as the truth, even though it might not come across in the conversation we've had here. But the truth is that you've got to demonstrate to your client that you know what you're talking about, that you'll get the job done, and they can have confidence in you for doing the stuff, is the truth. So as much as it's, you know, fun and jokes on, you know, Woody and Kleiny podcast, sometimes I've got to be a little bit, you know, more streamlined and to the point. But yeah, I remember I was going through a really pressurized time at work. I went up to Liverpool for a game to see some of the clients, and I didn't realise, but actually I was in the players' lounge with for the tickets afterwards. And I've just got a season ticket at Anfield. I've had it for almost over 35 years or so, but I'd never actually been in the players' lounge before. So I had a really busy time at work.
You need to build up your connections, Dan.
Because I always like just sitting in my seats. I like sitting in my seats with the people that I've literally sat next to for 35 years. Which is really nice.
In the
main stand.
Yeah, nice.
And so I was telling the story to the missus afterwards, and I said, I went into the players' lounge, chatted to all of the players. The players I was working with introduced me as their lawyer, and it was a very different dynamic because it wasn't me as a supporter, it was me as the lawyer, and everyone was like, great, you've helped with this or that. So it was almost like as much as I wasn't an equal, I was an equal. But the point is, I mean, I'm like 5'7", all these guys were like 6'3".
They're huge. How big are footballers now?
Yeah, Van Dijk is just massive. He's amazing. Anyway, and so I went back home afterwards, and I was totally tired. Up early the next morning, I had to go somewhere for another transfer, working with some other transfer stuff. Came back that evening, and the missus, and I was just moaning to the missus, you just had a long day. And the missus was like, you know what, you've just been in front of all of the Liverpool players, chatting away with them like they're your pals. You need to take a second, breathe, and just actually be grateful for doing a great job and being in the midst of something great. And I was a bit like, okay.
Humbled you for a second.
Yeah. Exactly. So
I'll tell you what, I'd love
awesome
to do it. And I think that the guys would be up for this and what have you. So no pressure on you or anything. But if you've been travelling up there and you've got season tickets for 35 years, we've obviously got the derby going on over here. I think we would love at some point to be able to go up to Anfield with you, watch a game with you, and like just experience what it's like for a derby in Liverpool.
Well, I've got enough tickets, but I think, but only
You've
if
been
only if he wears the Everton shirt in the Liverpool end.
Oh yeah.
But it's the friendly derby, isn't it?
It's not that friendly.
So my mum's actually Scouse, and so half my family is red and half is blue.
Yeah. And that's how they talk about it as well. They say red and blue, don't they?
Yeah.
But do you know what? I'm not holding you to it, but if we could make that happen
definitely
sometime,
do that, man.
I would love
I'd love
to.
to.
How the hell have you managed to do that, by the way? I never knew that.
One of my friends at school years ago, don't chat to him
You
now.
had friends?
You went to school?
Yeah, I went to school. Hello.
I didn't know that.
He was an Everton fan. His dad had season tickets, and one time, you remember Tom Classen?
Yeah.
And he took me up to Everton Liverpool.
Oh,
wow.
amazing.
Yeah, it was
What's
good
like?
experience. Especially back then as well when
Proper.
I couldn't even tell you. It was so long ago.
You guys are working with Sky Sports, and you can't get tickets for the derby.
Yeah,
Nice friendly back to me.
Yeah.
1-1. Right, I think we're going to move on to Bailey, who's just made an entrance. What's going on, Bailey? You've been taking notes back there. Work experience.
Yeah, not much. Just been listening.
Oh
to
God, you got a
stuff.
page full.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay, here it goes.
Across that.
Yeah.
Okay. Who is the most popular person you have worked with or are working with?
Oh, it's a great one.
A lawyer here.
So it depends how you measure like greatness, I guess, and all the rest of it. But one of the players I'm probably like the closest to, and you won't mind me name dropping. If not, then I'm probably sacked as his lawyer soon. But yeah, Hector Bellerin's amazing. He's one of my favourite guys, just generally. Okay. So, you know, he's obviously a great footballer. Done amazing things with Betis last year. Won the sort of Copa del Rey with him playing. He's back at Arsenal at the moment and doing a great job. And it's actually all his stuff he does off the pitch, which is very cool. He's really switched on, massively into sustainability, eating in particular ways. He's sort of known as a...
He's a vegan, right?
Yeah, as a vegan sort of trendsetter. And he's just a lovely guy that literally I have a book club with him every now and then, be like, what you reckon, what you reading, we just have a bit of a chat at different times.
He done a YouTube documentary and I was in awe of it. He seems so good,
he's
like,
just
as a person.
Yeah, just a lovely guy and really
humble,
open,
authentic,
and properly wanting to learn on stuff. And he'll do amazing things post. He's still got a great career ahead of him. But
and he's a bit of a fashion guru.
Yeah. And he is
a
trendsetter, isn't he? Like when it comes to that sort of stuff. And you know what? I think we can vouch for that as well, because we've worked with Hector Bellerin and we've come across him obviously on social media as well, what have you, and a really lovely, humble, down to earth person and
legend,
a great guy, right?
The Cockney Spaniard.
Yes, do you remember? It was that was great banter when he was bringing the Cockney slang. Yeah, brilliant.
Oh, that's legend. Good question, Bailey.
Okay, I've got another one.
Got me on the spot.
Another one.
Okay.
Get fruity.
Do you ever get like unexpected calls? So, for example, if you was like just hanging out with the family, just anything in general, do you ever get a call from like somebody who wants to make a transfer?
Yeah, literally all the time. So it's a great question, by the way. It's what happened a few windows ago before COVID. I got a call at 11 o'clock one night, or WhatsApp saying, I need you to get to the Eurostar 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. We've got a transfer negotiation we need to sort of get going with. And so I was a bit like, okay, we better get cracking. So it's literally all the time. There's always stuff going on. Let's not be like, oh, look how cool my life is. It can sometimes be a bit difficult, is the truth, because I'm constantly unbalanced. Balancing sort of family stuff and all the rest of it. But my missus and the kids are actually really good about it, and I think they're good about it. But it's just that balancing act.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Nice, Bailey.
I agree. Okay, I have 2 more questions. Do you think that you can be better as a lawyer, or be like better than where you are now, or do you think that you're at the best stage?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully I can still get better, because there's always things that I don't know or can learn about or read up on and the rest of it. So my mindset always is to try and improve as much as I can. But the thing is that, I don't just see myself as a lawyer, is the truth as well. I see myself as, a husband, a father, someone that, wants to use his creative juices in loads of different ways. One is a lawyer, one's, sort of my 13 fashion brand stuff. The other is book stuff. Awesome. The other are podcast things that I like doing as well. Yeah. I'm always looking to try and test myself in new particular ways, which is quite cool. And that gives me the authority, the autonomy to be able to do it.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay, and my final question, who's your favourite, Woody or Kleiny?
It is definitely Daryl.
Answered like a true lawyer.
Great.
Guys,
yes.
that pretty much wraps us up. Well done, Bailey. Give Bailey a big round of applause. Thank you to everyone for joining us. Been absolutely amazing having you on. Thank you so much for joining us, Dan. All of the links will be in the description for Dan's book and anything else, including Luck Clothing. And thank you so much for everyone for your amazing support, continuing to watch us. If you want to check us out even more so than you already do on social media, we are across on Patreon, where you get exclusive behind the scene content as well. Hope you have an amazing day, and remember, it's a little bit too easy. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, Dan. Thank you, mate.
That was class.
Legend.